views that have been built from childhood, from the fact that all their mainstream, all their news, all their media, all the content that they consume feeds this narrative. It supports a narrative, and if it doesn't, it's banned. So they don't really get to see opposing views, and they all have, when I talk to those ones that you're talking about, and I ask them a simple question, going, okay, which one of the five demands from the Hong Kongers, the Hong Kong protest movement, are you against? What don't you agree with? What don't you want to give them? And none of them could answer that.
I think if they go in jail, there must be some reason. Well,
You don't think that the communist government is a little bit dodgy?
No.
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 No, because
Are you Aussie?
no.
You got an Aussie accent.
Oh well.
How long you been in Australia?
9 years.
9 years.
Yeah.
You don't believe that the communist government do wrong?
No.
When I talk about China versus Hong Kong, I'm reminded of another video of yours where you're interviewing some young Chinese nationals. I think they're on vacation or they're there for school. And that really got me thinking a lot about some stuff. I had just recently watched a documentary on Maoism and how that all happened in China. And I couldn't help but think that a lot of these people that you spoke to, a lot of these kids, they sound a lot like American social justice warriors. And I can't help but think or wonder, and what I'm going to ask you is China's dictatorship more an influence of the government on its people, or do you think it's possible that they developed a country full of social justice warriors that basically is almost where America is now, where they believe these facets of their culture so much, and they believe in maybe their fake issues, maybe their fake virtues that they're believing in. They believed it so much that they decided to vote in the people that agree with them. And these are people that don't particularly pay attention to politics. They don't care if there's censorship. They don't care if the government's reading everything they're saying. They just want to have TikTok and they want to have a video platform. In your opinion, what is it that makes people in China so complicit with their government? Because there must be some degree that they know that the rest of the world sees them as kind of strange, or do they?
I think it's a mix of different things, and also you got to remember China is 1.4 billion people. The ones that come here for school or for holiday, they're not the majority. They're in the minority, and they're pretty well set up in China, and most of them would have some sort of connection to the communist government there, whether they work for them, whether they've just got close business ties, whatever it is. So I don't think the people that I talk to here are a reflection of the majority in mainland China. I do think that there's a mix of what you're saying. There are some that there's probably a lot, especially within that class, that believe they're standing for what's right. They're nationalists. They believe in their country. They believe in their government as well. They believe in censorship. They truly believe in it. So that's their version of what you'd say, like the social justice warriors we have here. But I think that in China, the difference is, and what I found is that you can't actually have a rational conversation with, especially those groups, because they don't believe anything else outside of China. They've been brainwashed in China for their entire lives. Now, the ones, again, that we see here, they have pretty comfortable lives, so why would they question it? They have a comfortable life. And then on top of that, they've been fed these different narratives, which are nationalistic Chinese, Han Chinese, so they are a very racist group. They don't like minorities. Just ask any of the Uyghurs in China. But so they have their views that have been built from childhood, from the fact that all their mainstream, all their news, all their media, all the content that they consume feeds this narrative. It supports a narrative, and if it doesn't, it's banned. So they don't really get to see opposing views, and they all have, when I talk to those ones that you're talking about, and I asked him a simple question, going, okay, which one of the 5 demands from the Hong Kongers, the Hong Kong protest movement, are you against? What don't you agree with? What don't you want to give them? And none of them could answer that because they weren't being fed that. They were being fed one line in China, which in mainland China, which was that Hong Kong protest movement was about independence. And the truth is, especially at that time, it had nothing to do with independence. The independence was a very fringe minority that were asking for independence. The 5 demands were nothing about independence. In fact, I would say, anecdotally, from speaking to Hong Kongers on the ground, they didn't want really independence from China. They enjoyed having a big brother. They identified as free Chinese. They're Chinese. They look Chinese. They eat Chinese food, but they just had Western democratic values. But they wanted that big brother. Now I think it may have changed since then, and you can't blame them, because I think a lot of people realize that the only way out of what's going on there now is through democracy, through independence.
This was a clip from the full episode of Andrew Says. Please go to rebelnewsplus.com if you haven't already to subscribe and see the full uncensored show. We can swear, we can be shirtless, whatever you want.